Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest, brought to us by Rare and Nintendo. Released in 1995, 1 year after the original, this game has Donkey Kong being captured by the evil King K. Rool. Diddy is now setting off to save him, joined by Dixie Kong for the first time in the series. The gameplay is very similar to the original. There's some new gameplay elements throughout, especially in certain stages, that truly end up making them shine. The soundtrack is one of the best of all times, and for most people, this is the best game the series has ever done. Just like with the original, you can play the game 1 or 2 players, and the 2-player mode can be either a competitive one or a co-op one with one player controlling Diddy and the other one controlling Dixie. The new elements of Donkey Kong Country 2 include the addition of more bonus items and secrets to keep an eye out for. You now have 2 types of bonuses. Bonus rooms that end up giving you Krem coins that end up being spent to go into the game's Lost World, the secret levels. They're some of the most challenging in the game, and by completing them all, you'll unlock the center part of the Lost World where the true final boss lies. There's also the Hero Coins, or DK Coins. These are in every one of the levels, and there's only one per stage, and a lot of times they're really tricky to find. In this run of the game, I will be getting 102%, getting all the DK Hero Coins as well as all the bonus rooms. Here we have our first bonus room. Each of these bonus rooms gives you a little screen beforehand to tell you the theme of it, whether it's destroy all the enemies or get to the end. Unlike with the original though, if you don't complete it and get the Krem coin, it doesn't count as being completed, so make sure you grab that Krem coin. If you run out of time or get hit, you can redo the bonus room as long as you're able to re-access it. Here is the next one. Rambi the Rhino and many of the animal buddies make a return in DKC2, and this time they have a unique move. You're able to charge it up and either blast forward with On Guard or Rambi, or you can charge it up into a big jump with Rattly the Snake. Just outside the bonus room, climb up these barrels and grab the DK Hero Coin. Another difference from the original is that animal buddies can't go through the entire level. Eventually you'll reach a no animal buddy sign, and the animal will transform into an item. This item is set, so every time you go through a level and hit that particular sign, it'll turn into that particular item. Sometimes this is a key item, like a barrel that you'll need to destroy a nearby wall in order to find a bonus area. At the beginning of level number 2, start off by going underneath the first ramp and jumping to the right, either using Dixie's flying ability as she's able to float over, twirling her hair, and also Diddy has his cartwheel back, and both of these can be used to kind of cross gaps a lot easier. You can kind of do a cartwheel into the gap, and if you time it right, you can do a big leap and get across most major gaps using Diddy Kong. His speed is also slightly faster than Dixie's, just like his was faster than Donkey's in the original. However, I usually find myself playing as Dixie more just because the flying ability gives her a lot more chances and opportunities to save yourselves during certain aspects of the game. When we reach up here, pick up this cannonball. This cannonball is essential to go into the cannon up here, and then once you put it into the cannon, you can then enter it and blast off. You have to do this in order to get certain bonus rooms throughout the game. This one, you have a cannonball at the bottom that you can pick up, and you need to use that to launch up into the air in order to take out the enemies that are sliding on the ropes. This is a little bit of a tricky one, and probably the hardest bonus room so far, but once we're able to complete that, we get back into the main level, and we're going to continue our climb up to the top of the stage. There's a lot of levels in Donkey Kong Country 2 that end up being more of a scrolling up level than a scrolling left to right stage. Just after using the cannon though, we do find our next bonus room, the third and final one for this level. This time we have to collect all of these stars, just going up and down the ropes, whatever pattern you find the easiest to get them. Once you've collected them all, be careful not to slide off and down into the pit below, grab the bonus coin at the top, and continue on the level. This actually puts us right at the end of the level. Jump over to the right over the small gap to grab the DK coin. At the end of every level, you'll have this target that you're able to break. As long as you fall from a certain distance, you'll be able to break it and get the item that ends up appearing at the time you hit the target. Sometimes you'll actually need to do this in order to get some of the DK coins in the game, as well as you can also get plenty of extra lives this way. However, due to the fact you get that little cutscene every time you do it with Dixie and Diddy, I'll only be doing it a handful of times throughout. Returning in DKC2 are some of the extra little areas you can go to on the map, including going over and visiting Cranky Kong, getting some hints about the levels. You can get some hints about gameplay, enemies, and the like from Wrinkly's Kong College. And then there's also Funky's Flights, where you can go between the different levels on the island. And then finally, Swanky, who ends up having this bonus trivia game that can also end up earning you a bunch of extra lives. In level number 3, start off immediately as we're going to go up and not only get a bonus room, but then immediately get the DK Hero Coin for this level. We still have one more bonus room to keep an eye out for as we progress farther into the level. One of the big attention grabbers with DKC was its graphical style, and I think they really perfected it here in DKC2 with some absolutely gorgeous backgrounds, effects, and that soundtrack that just kind of goes along with everything just ends up building the mood so much in certain stages. It really ends up being some of the best atmosphere the SNES had, and that was something that wasn't necessarily easy to do on the system. There's a few times in the game we'll be able to get an invincibility barrel, the barrel with the exclamation point on it. During that time, you are invincible to enemies, and you can kind of just blast your way through them, and we're able to do that to kind of get up and get to this bonus room. Be careful along the hooks to grab the Krem coin after eventually reaching that top. Thankfully, though, that is the end of the level. Hit the target at the end, and we're moving on to stage number 4 here. While I love the underwater levels in DKC1, I didn't necessarily love them in DKC2. I guess this would be what you would consider the underwater themed level, even though there are a few areas in the game where you do also have swimming. I thought the setting and all was cool here, but these levels ended up being hard for me usually to find all the secrets. I didn't like the music quite as much. It was nothing compared to aquatic ambience, and there's some other annoying aspects in these stages throughout that end up making them not necessarily my favorites in DKC2. Early on in Lockjaw's Locker, we're able to go through a secret kind of passage and find Unguard. Unguard, with his charging ability, will be used several times throughout this run to break open holes in walls, including here, where we make it to this bonus area. Here we have a big maze that we have to kind of make our way through. It's a relatively easy maze. They give you a decent amount of time in order to kind of navigate your way through it. Once you're able to do so, we're continuing on through Lockjaw's Locker. After getting up here with the water rising, we end up losing Unguard for a little bit, getting a red balloon for the ordeal, and that's right where the halfway point marker is. After hitting that rest barrel, continuing on through the level, once again we're going to go through another kind of little hidden area down here. Watch out for Lockjaw and make sure you grab Unguard. With Unguard, we can travel along the bottom here and go through a little secret area, get a few coins, as well as some extra bananas. Now make sure that you keep Unguard, and then you want to do a big charge when you get up here, and this will allow you to get into the secret kind of area where the hero DK coin is located for the stage. Right after that, though, we lose Unguard and finish up the level. Here is the Swanky Trivia Bonus game. I'm only going to do this one time through, show you guys one set of trivia questions. You have to spend 1 or 2 coins for the harder categories here, and you get better rewards, either 2 or 3 1-up balloon. All the questions pertain to various levels in the current world, or just the gameplay in general. I thought these were really fun, like the first time I was playing through the game, and they're a nice little way to get those extra 1-ups. But for the most part, though, they're not something that you have to do here, other than going in there once for the 102%. Here we have the first level that features Rattly the Rattlesnake. Rattly is not necessarily my favorite of the animal buddies. His jump is a bit inconsistent. It's similar to Winky from DKC1. Sadly, Winky and Espresso do not make a return in this one, though Winky does appear in the background of Cranky's area. Kind of weird. He's kind of like in a museum-like thing. I thought that was odd. And Espresso, while not in this game, In the GBA version of the game that would come out many years later, they added an Espresso Race minigame or bonus game, and Espresso was thus included officially in DKC2, well, that version of DKC2, but only in that bonus game. One thing cool with Rattly, though, is the jump can be used. You can charge it up and get through areas. Like right here is where the sign is to lose Rattly. But if you time that one jump, you can actually get around the sign and keep Rattly longer than you're supposed to. The problem is navigating the rest of the level with them is near impossible unless you're really, really good at the timing on jumping off the enemies. I'm sure there's a way you can probably get through the rest of the level with Rattly in tow. It's just not necessarily the most fun. Here, we're going to drop down, use Dixie's ponytail to fly over to the left and get to this bonus barrel. You can also use the flitters that were right there to get up there. Usually I forget about the flitters, I just kind of ignore them as I run through and then end up having to backtrack using Dixie. Trying to memorize where every one of these bonus rooms are and hero coins are has been something that is haunting me for a very long time. Even in this run, I end up making a mistake or two when it comes to trying to get all of the hero coins and all of the bonus rooms in a single go. Here is just one of the many examples of me messing up during this run. The DK coin is over to the right side, located right near the end of the level. I always know in my head, though, that if I've reached the target and I didn't get the DK coin, I missed it, obviously. So I remembered then to go back and grab it real quick to finish up the level. The first boss of the game is Crow, a giant version of the mechy crow enemies that we've been dealing with in the game. This pirate crow guy will try to pick up eggs and drop them on you. You can then jump on the egg, dropping it down to the ground, and then pick up the egg and launch it at Crow, or jump into Crow with it. After a little bit of fighting, though, Crow will get upset and start slamming into the crow's nest of this giant ship and cause eggs to start flying out everywhere. When this happens, eventually an egg will start bouncing, and when that egg does happen to bounce, that's when you're able to know you can jump on it to pick it up and once again hit Crow. Once you've delivered 4 hits in total to Crow, the battle is over, and we're moving on to the next world. One thing that's very helpful for making sure that you get everything in the game is once you complete a level and you go back to the level selection screen, when you highlight a stage you've already been to, if it has an exclamation point and the DK coin next to that, you know you've gotten everything in it. If you've only gotten all the bonus rooms but not the DK coin, of course it'll just have the exclamation point or vice versa. What's also really useful is on the main world map of the island, you can actually see if you've gotten everything for each area of the island by the same indicators. A little ways into this level, we'll come across one of these treasure chests. Breaking this one open will give us a cannonball. Like we've used before, pick up the cannonball and make sure that you carry it for the next little bit, so eventually you make it to the cannon and we can use that to get to that next bonus room. This is a pretty fun one. There's a lot of stars here, and we have to bounce off the crocodiles in the lava down below. Kind of funny how the crocs are completely unaffected by lava. They are immune to whatever heat is going on and are perfectly able to just stay at the surface. The coolest of the new animal buddies for me was Squitter. Squitter is a spider, as you can see, and what's really cool with Squitter is he has 2 moves. One that's just a short web attack that will fly out and go across the entire screen, taking out enemies. Very useful. But the more useful is the platform creation web. You send it out and then you have to press the button again in order to create a little platform, and then Squitter can then jump on the platform and you can keep using this in order to progress. One thing that's even really cool with that is you can actually shoot it in a diagonal direction. Instead of doing all these little short jumps like I am, you can also just kind of stand on a platform and then hit up or hold up while you press the fire button, and your attack will go upwards or downwards depending upon what direction you hit, and this works for both of Squitter's moves. Once again, use Squitter's web platforms to get up to the bonus room just above the center platform there. And here, you just have to kind of get your way through it, so use a few spider web platforms to get the last of the bonus rooms in the first stage of the second area. Now this is where things start to get a lot more trickier. Cannon's Claim. At the very beginning of this level, to the far right, you'll see a big arrow and a bonus room. Now I forgot about it right away as soon as I entered this bonus room, so I have to do this bonus room twice. And it's one of those ones I always seemingly forget. Even though it's so unique to the game, at least up to this point, I always end up forgetting about it. At the very bottom right corner of this bonus room is actually the DK Hero coin for this level. There's a few times in the game they really hid the DK coins by having them hidden within bonus rooms. What's cool though, like I said before, you can re-enter bonus rooms. Even if you've already completed it, you can re-enter it, you'll just not get another coin. Instead, the coin will have a check mark at the end of it if you decide to complete the bonus room again. However, for me though, I need to make sure I just go to the right, grab that DK coin, and then I can just jump off into the pit. And successfully that counts. I have the DK coin for the level, I've completed the bonus room, and we can continue on in the level. Similar to the Clubbas from DKC1, Cornshaq also has to be defeated either using a barrel like the TNT thing, or you can use the cannonball or other projectile. Jumping on him, he just ends up knocking you backwards. After making it up here, you have the checkpoint barrel. You can also pick up the DK barrel and use it to take out that first zinger, before then going through the series of barrels. Once you make it to this platform, you'll see a DK barrel floating overhead, but we're actually going to fly to the left and get inside this bonus room. Very easy one here. We're just going to work our way up to the top using the barrels. A lot of times in bonus rooms, you usually have enough time to make a mistake or two. Later ones, and there are a few where the timing is a lot more strict with what you have to do in order to complete it, but usually you can make at least a mistake. There are very few minigames where the timing's so strict that, like, any kind of deviation will end up causing you to fail. Once to the top here, fly over this zinger, and when we reach the platform here, we're going to jump over to the right. You can float over, use the cannon enemy to get over, but either way, get to the platform and find the last of the bonus rooms for this stage. Just bounce off of the flitter enemies and get to that coin on the right. Right after that bonus room, though, we're right at the end of the level. You can use the treasure chest to kind of help you as a shield, jumping past a couple of necky enemies. But once you complete that, we now have over 15 Krem coins, so we're going to go to the Lost World for the first time. Here we have to go to Clubba's kiosk and pay him 15 Krem coins, and we're able to enter the golden barrel that's floating behind him. We're then taken to the Lost World. Now here, you can only go to one level, the level that's accessed via whatever portal you entered through. So you can't, it's not like the Star Road in Super Mario World where you have all of the levels and then the special world where they're all kind of connected to one another. Here you can only access whichever one you're supposed to at that time. Now these levels are some of the most challenging for sure in the game. Especially Animal Antics is a challenging but very fun level, the last of these Lost World stages. Now, one cool thing about these levels is you don't have to worry too much about secrets. There's only one bonus room per Lost World stage, and for completing it, instead of getting a Krem coin, you're instead rewarded with that level's DK Hero coin. When you land down here, use either a cartwheel or Dixie's ponytail to float over and get to the bonus room. Now this is a challenging bonus room. Pick up Diddy or Dixie, whoever you're not controlling, and you actually have to throw them upwards, and if you time it right, you can actually bounce off the enemies and defeat them, but you gotta make sure that you don't accidentally get hit by the zinger as well. This is a rather challenging one, but thankfully you're put right in front of where it is, so you can get right back into that bonus room if you do end up failing it, and they give you that DK barrel so that you can complete it. Once you complete it, you get the DK coin for this level, and you just have to make your way through the rest of the challenging stage. A lot of that includes these tires. The timing of which bouncing off of is a bit odd, especially that first one. The first one you hit in a series of them will dictate, of course, where you end up. So sometimes you won't have one at the very end when you may need it, and it can be a little bit off, but for the most part, not usually too bad. More of a pain are all the series of enemies kind of set up in a row, trying to prevent our progress. At the end, you can use the barrel to destroy the zinger and then blast over to the target to hit it successfully if you want to, or just hit it, finish up the level, and now we're going to go back through the entry point and go back to Crocodile Cauldron and go to the next stage, which is Lava Lagoon. In Lava Lagoon, we're introduced to Clapper the Seal. Clapper will end up shooting water down to cool down large amounts of lava. It's amazing that this little tiny seal is able to cool a giant pool of water with barely a little bit of breath, but these Kongs also can breathe underwater, so not everything's necessarily a realistic thing in DKC. You only have a limited amount of time once you do hit Clapper, of course, in order to continue through the water before the lava ends up kind of taking back over, and you do, of course, end up taking damage that way. Here you can find one of those elusive exclamation point barrels, which will give us an invincibility for a bit. There's nothing really you need to do with that, just kind of use a barrel through some enemies. There are a few times where the exclamation point is needed to kind of help you get to a secret or something, but that's not the case here. Located also in a little secret cubbyhole is an Unguard. You can pick him up for a little bit. Once again, just like with the exclamation point, you don't have to have him for a secret, but it does help you for a little bit, and keeping him to the end gets you a 1-up. Now, right after that, though, that barrel that's sitting up there, you want to grab that and break open the wall just below it. This will get us to our first bonus room of the stage, which actually ends up giving us Unguard again to help us destroy all the enemies through this maze-like area. After the bonus room, you'll get dropped down. The lava will retreat a little bit. Drop to the bottom here and hit Clapper, of course. Once you're in the water, watch out for the puffed up enemies, these puffer fish guys. They are a nuisance. You get close to them. You have ones that explode and send spikes everywhere. Just try to do your best to avoid them. Now here, hit Clapper, but you can see Clapper facing the other direction. That's kind of your hint to go through that area. And you'll go through a secret wall and be able to grab yourself not only another invincibility item, but also get the DK Hero coin. Get to the top, finish up the level, and that's all you need to do here in Lava Lagoon. The next level is Red Hot Ride. Now for Red Hot Ride, you have these hot air balloons that are introduced, and you have to use the steam coming off of the lava. You can use that to fuel the air balloon and then use it to kind of hover. Now this is a level that I will admit, when I was a kid, I had trouble with. One of those times where for some reason I kept failing, and then I finally realized what I was supposed to do, and then just kind of like smack yourself in the face like, what the heck? How did I not realize that? But yeah, for whatever reason, I didn't realize that the steam actually made the balloons rise back up. I just, for whatever reason, maybe it was my speedrun mentality I've always had, I just wanted to barrel through. I thought you were supposed to go fast and somehow be able to get the balloon if you were quick enough to survive. And this works for the entire level up until the last set. You cannot get past the last gap without at least stopping a couple of times. Eventually, I was able to figure that out. Finished up the level, felt like an idiot, but I still love this game to this day. When you get past this hot air balloon, you want to use Rambi's charge-up ability and charge through the wall in order to get into this bonus room. This is a simple but fun one, just running through it and killing every one of the Kremlins using Rambi. Right after the bonus room, though, you will end up losing Rambi. There's the no animal buddy sign, but then you'll hit the checkpoint marker, and right below that checkpoint marker is a bonus room, so drop down there and grab that for the next one. This one, you have to use the hot air balloon to go between the two things of steam in order to grab it. This is one of those ones I failed a bunch of times as well because I would keep losing the hot air balloon, not realizing that it could be saved by the steam. And I actually think it was that bonus room when I finally realized that the steam was able to make the balloon rise up because of maybe jumping off of it where it ended up staying. It floated up and was like, oh, that's what you're supposed to do. Either way, after the bonus room, when you make it to the leather end, a little bit into this next hot air balloon ride, use the barrel if you still have it to destroy the zinger. If you got rid of it, you can still kind of sacrifice one of your Kongs if you do it right to get the DK hero coin. But thankfully, you're not far from the checkpoint, so if you do end up not being able to grab the hero coin, you can do a quick death and get back to the checkpoint marker and be able to get that DK hero coin your next time through. We are nearing the end of the level here. During this last segment, you will have a series of balloons that are just falling down with no kind of steam on them, and since you don't have that to rise you back up, you kind of have to quickly jump between a few of them. The last bit here, though, is where it gets really tricky. You'll have to maneuver the balloon between a couple of zingers and stuff, and you have just enough space once you sink down and kind of go quickly through here that you don't rise up enough to accidentally get your head clipped by one of those stinging things. At the end of the level, you can use the air balloon above you or just jump to the target. Either way, we're moving on to the next stage, which is Squatch Shaft. A little bit into the level, blast up here and watch out for all of the enemies on this platform where you'll pick up the DK barrel. Right after that, you pretty much have the exact same thing. We're going to do a cartwheel or flyover with Dixie, though, to the right to get to a barrel, blast under a couple of zingers, and get to the first bonus room of Squatch Shaft. Now, this is a very easy one once you know where it is. The treasure chest will contain one of the Krem coins. You have to grab that one and use it on the zinger in the center in order to get it. Use the barrels to blast your way up, and eventually you'll come to the halfway marker. Once you get to that point, to the left of that is where another bonus room is contained. This one, just blast your way through the barrels, similar to ones we've dealt with already, except this one you have to time more, making sure that you get it just right to get to that very top and grab the Krem coin. But, like I said earlier, you usually have at least a second or two to mess around or make a mistake or so before you really end up getting penalized, and even then, it's not too bad to get back into the bonus rooms. Right after that second bonus room, though, we'll find the letter O not long after and get Squawks. Now that you have Squawks is a lot of fun to play as throughout DKC2 because he's able to shoot out projectiles and take out enemies. The giant nuts he's able to throw out of his mouth bounce off of enemies. They go a decent distance, but they do have an arcing pattern to them, so sometimes it's difficult. When we make it here, you'll see two of the enemies on the left and right side. We're actually going to destroy the one on the right, fly under it, and get to the right, and up here you'll see a DK hero coin, as well as another one of the bonus rooms, so you get both of those things right next to one another. This bonus room has you with Squawks, just fly around, destroy all the zingers, and grab the Krem coin. Not long after that, though, fly up the center area here, watching out for all of the neckies, make it to the no squawk sign, finishing up the level, and moving on to the boss encounter of Crocodile Cauldron. This boss is Cleaver. Cleaver is a giant sword that ends up firing out fireballs towards you. For this fight, what you're going to want to do is dodge the fireballs at first. After a little bit of dodging, he'll drop a cannonball that you pick up and launch at him. Once you hit Cleaver, Cleaver gets mad, will start chasing you around, and during this time, a bunch of hooks will appear, allowing you to get across the gap, and when you make it to the opposite side, you'll find another cannonball usually waiting for you that you can pick up and then launch at Cleaver. After 3 hits, Cleaver retracts into the lava for the second part of this battle, where he's flying around trying to charge more at you, and it's a lot more tricky to dodge. This is where things get a lot harder. Of course, there's a lot more hooks for you to deal with. But once you make it to the other side, you'll find another one of the cannonballs and be able to hit him. Just continue the process, keep going back and forth. Sometimes if you're too quick, a cannonball won't spawn yet. It only starts spawning once he's fully finished one of his cycles of attacks. It takes a little bit, but once we deliver that final blow to him, we're moving on to the next part of the island. Interestingly enough, in Donkey Kong Land 2, they decided to actually combine the second and third parts of the island into one big, massive part. I don't know why that change was made necessarily, but I always found that interesting, that was one of the only major differences, really, between the SNES and then the Game Boy Donkey Kong Land. The first level in the next part is Bramble Bayou. Now these are swamp-themed levels, a lot of them that we'll be seeing throughout here. This setting leads to a lot of barrels that we're going to be using, interesting enemy types, including these guys that throw down random items at us. There's actually a time or two where we're going to have to use them to help us get to certain bonus rooms, including here in this level. Now, if you drop down here, you can find a small little island that actually has Rambi in it. You want to make sure that you hold on to Rambi throughout the portion here. These barrels, you can see the number on them when it gets to 0. They automatically launch you out, so make sure that you are ready to go before that timer runs out. You'll notice a cannon here that we're actually going to get the cannonball in just a second. First, go through this area, get to the no Rambi sign, and by hitting it, you'll actually get rewarded with the DK Hero Coin if you've kept Rambi alive the entire level so far. For this enemy, wait till he throws a few objects and then he'll fly across the screen to the opposite end of this platform. At this point, he's going to throw down a treasure chest that you can actually break on him if you want, but inside is a cannonball that we use on that cannon to blast up into the bonus room. This is a pretty easy bonus room for the most part. All you need to do is just pick up the cannonball and use it, or you can actually use Dixie or Diddy as a weapon on the two flitters on the left and right side. Once they are defeated, you grab that Krem coin and continue on. There is one more bonus barrel in this level, but thankfully it's a very easy one to spot. Normally running through the level, it's probably the only one you would spot naturally, as the other two are relatively hidden, with Rambi and the DK coin and that other one waiting for you to use the enemy to help you get to it. After the series of barrel blasts over this small pit, we will come to another one of those guys throwing barrels at us, but above him, as you can see, is that bonus room. Grab that barrel and complete this one. Just have a series of barrels back to back that have short timers on them, but should be enough where you can easily get over to the right side and grab the Krem coin. Right after that, though, you're dropped right at the end. You can actually use the barrel there to hit the target if you want, or just blast down and then jump on it, and we're moving on to Glimmers Galleon. Now for this level, you actually have a new animal buddy that joins you. This level will introduce Glimmer, the anglerfish, who has a light on his head that will be able to help you see. But before we get into the level, we're going to immediately swim upwards. And you can't really see much, it's really dark obviously, but you want to swim up to the secret area and you will find a hidden bonus room. There's actually even more secrets that are hidden in the darkness of Glimmers Galleon. Once we complete the bonus room and get back out to the main part of the level, you also then want to swim up into the upper right corner, and you can actually go through the ceiling. And then you want to do the same in this room with the number 3 on it, into the upper right corner, where you'll find a room with the number 4 shaped out of bananas, but also, more importantly, the DK Hero Coin. After going a little bit into the level, though, finally, we do end up running into Glimmer. He automatically joins us and will follow us for the rest of the level. The flash effect of Glimmer's light when you turn left or right always ended up annoying me. That quick little flash ends up blinding me for just that quick second, and one of the many reasons I don't really like this level. It's also partly because I have the habit in platformers and any real game that I'm always kind of like moving back and forth left and right to center myself. To make sure that I'm landing correctly on a platform, or that I have the camera where I need it so that I have the best chance of dodging whatever's ahead. So that just ends up leading to extra amounts of Glimmer's light. So I do apologize to anybody who ends up being annoyed by his light during the course of this stage. There is another bonus room for us to keep an eye out for. It's well hidden, especially with the darkness of the stage. Even with Glimmer's light, things can be a bit tricky to see. You'll see eventually an arrow pointing to the right. When you see this arrow made out of bananas, you would actually want to head downwards, and downwards again to another small opening, which will lead you to another one of the bonus rooms. This is a pretty easy one. Once again, it's just a maze. You gotta work your way through. You do have Glimmers Light to help you out. There are plenty of dead ends, but for the most part, you should have a decent amount of time to get through it. The rest of the level just has us trying to survive. Plenty of enemies, including puffed up pufferfish that will explode. Their shards are always annoying, and they travel so far. There's also going to be instances with some of the enemies, including those puffed up guys blowing up, where the game will slow down a little bit. Usually that ends up helping you dodge things a bit easier, but still can be a bit of a nuisance. At the end of the level, though, you will hit a barrel that will blast you outwards and onto the top of the ship, which is interesting. I always thought that that would make the next level actually be the level we'll be doing a little bit using Rattley. Maybe they switched the level order at some point in the creation of the game, because it would have been cool to kind of get on that ship and then the next level be on the ship. But instead, we are actually back into the swamp land for this stage, and we're starting off with a very kind of tricky set of maneuvers. We have to use Diddy and Dixie to get our way over to the left side, and you'll find yourself a treasure chest. With this treasure chest, you need to destroy all the zingers with it, or at least 4 enemies with it. And once you do so, it'll open up and you'll be able to grab the DK Hero coin for this level. So we already have that. We just gotta focus on finding the bonus rooms scattered throughout the level now. Bouncing off the giant flitters here, you get another DK barrel if you need it below. Watch out, there will be one of those jumping Kremlin enemies coming straight at you when you land in that one barrel. Just after the halfway or rest point barrel for this level, you'll come to an arrow made out of bananas. Throw Diddy or Dixie up there using your team up ability, and you'll get to a bonus room. Here you're given Squitter to go around and blast some zingers. Unfortunately, though, we don't get to keep Squitter long after this bonus room. We lose them immediately, but still fun to get to use them for a little while. We have all the secrets for the level, we just gotta focus on making it through to the end. You hit those barrels with the crocodile heads on them, and then you have a handful of seconds, basically, to get across the area before they end up descending back into the swamp marsh, and you can end up losing a life that way. Near the end of the level, you will have to use the crocodile head to bounce up and hit this last barrel, and then we just have a couple more jumps to finish up the stage. The next level we're going to is Rattle Battle, another level featuring the rattlesnake Rattley as the main character of the stage. Little behind the scenes note, there's a couple of times during this run where I've made a couple of mistakes, including where I'm just standing still for a second or two. I have a 1-year-old mini bull terrier named Philip that likes to knock the controller out of my hand during my runs, so that happens a couple of times during this, and this run ended up being good enough that I didn't want to end up redoing it just because of those small things. So there's a little behind the scenes for you with the play-it-throughs. Right at the very beginning of Rattle Battle, though, you want to get right up on top of the ship to this bonus area, where we complete a small little bonus room before going into this chamber of the ship, which is where we get Rattley. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of Rattley, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that love playing as him. So my question really, though, is, of all the animal buddies in the DKC games, which one is your particular favorite? For me, it's probably Squitter, just because of the possibilities that you're able to do with him, with Squawks being just slightly behind, because that projectile is a lot of fun to blast enemies with. A little bit ways into the level, you'll be able to drop down a small gap and find a hidden bonus room to the left. Just be careful that you don't just fall down any random hole. There's plenty of open pits scattered all throughout this level. There's also some tricky jumping with Rattley, being able to bounce off the top of heads of enemies or doing the super jump to get up to higher locations. Over here, we want to be careful and drop down, and we're going to jump to the right into a small little opening of the ship where we can find ourselves the DK Hero coin for this level. We do have another bonus room to keep an eye out for a little bit later on. You'll see a big arrow pointing up with bananas. Always a good sign. You should probably look wherever that arrow is pointing. Do a big Rattly jump with it and you'll be able to easily get into the bonus room cannon. For this one, it's a star collecting one, so just use Rattly. His jumping ability is very useful to easily gather all the stars. You should have plenty of time to do so. You may have to do a couple of special jumps. But once you gather them all, grab that Krem coin and move on. One thing with Rattly also is landing on top of enemies, you have to be pretty direct. If you're a little bit off, just slightly to the left or right, you'll usually find yourself getting hurt during those jumps. Near the end of the level, there's a bunch of bouncing enemies and then a cannon firing out barrels. You'll have to bounce off of one of the barrels and do a super jump to get to the top, but that's the end of the level and we can finish up the stage. Since we do have enough coins, we're going to go over to Clever's Kiosk and enter the next level in the Lost World. This one is Black Ice Battle. An ice-themed stage. It is pretty challenging for sure. There's a lot of sliding going around, a lot of enemies waiting for you. Do not go much farther than just immediately straight downwards when dropping down in this level, because you'll probably find yourself running straight directly into an enemy. Because of the ice theme and general difficult, this reminds me a little bit of that one ice level in the Battletoads game. Just so much slipping and sliding, enemies placed at the worst locations, and it can be very tricky to get through without at least getting hit a few times. Though Battletoads is still a much more challenging game. Just like with the other Lost World level, there's only one bonus room for us to really locate. We're going to do that by going over here, getting past the Kremlin inside of the barrel, getting the cannonball from the treasure chest, and we're going to use that to kind of take out a few enemies. Make sure that you keep it with you. Sometimes it can be difficult. If you run into an enemy, it can land on a platform above you, and you'll end up falling down the gap without it. You have to carry it for a little while until you make it to this platform where the G is located, and then all the way to the right, after taking out a bunch of zingers, you finally get to the cannon. This bonus room is pretty much more of the same of what we've been dealing with throughout the course of this level. Lots of zingers that you have to jump in between, a few sets of ramps before you make it to that DK Hero coin. Once back in the main level, we only have a little bit longer to go. There's a bunch of spiny enemies, the porcupine-like guys moving back and forth. They are pretty large on the ice, so be careful dodging between them. Here you have a couple of small little pits that you can easily fall into with zingers, and one last spiny at the bottom to finish up the stage. The next level is Slime Climb. This is a pretty challenging stage. You have this water that's constantly rising throughout, with the evil Snapjaw. Don't get them confused with Lockjaw, they are slightly different. The main difference being that Snapjaw is ridiculously aggressive and he cannot be destroyed. So basically, anytime the water rises to a certain degree, if Snapjaw is in the water with you, he will chase you down, taking you out, and taking out whatever Kong he possibly can, and not long after will take out the other Kong if you don't get out of the water. Up here you can take a little bit of a shortcut by using these barrels that will instantly blast you up, and you can use this one here again in order to go right to that checkpoint marker. Just past that, there's a cannon enemy. Defeat him before climbing up the rope where the arrow is pointing upwards. Instead, you actually want to hit the exclamation point and drop down back into the water, where you'll find yourself a bonus room. A pretty simple themed bonus room of collecting the stars, but actually gathering them all. You gotta be careful that when you jump to the left and right sides, you don't fall into the pit. There's not a lot of space where you can fall through because of the hook and the platform, but it can still be done. Just be a little bit careful when doing it, grab that Krem coin, and continue on. As we get back into the level, we're going to continue our way, of course, north, and trying to keep up with a good pace so that we keep ahead of the water that's rising. Over to the right, you'll see a flitter you can bounce off of or just kind of make a big leap off the top, and that usually can get you to safety on that right side. Lots of rope that you'll be climbing, and since you do climb relatively slowly, you climb a bit faster when you're holding on to two sides of the rope at once. Jumping away from the rope a little bit and upwards can also get you to go up a little bit quicker. Just be careful when you do that you don't accidentally run into that zinger. I accidentally fall into the water here and end up losing Diddy Kong for a bit. Right above this spot, though, is a cannonball that you can pick up and use that cannonball for a few enemies in a row. Just be careful and grab the cannon there and blast up into the air. For this minigame, you gotta use the cannonballs. You can jump on the flitters on the right side. I end up getting the controller knocked out of my hand again by my puppy during this, so another instance of that. But you can see you still have plenty of time, even with a couple of seconds mistake. I'm able to still have enough time, take them all out, and grab the Krem coin and continue on. Right after the bonus room, you're going to drop down. There's an exclamation point above you. Grab that because we need to grab the DK Hero coin to the right. The target for the end stage is just above us, but we want to go below it, grab that coin, and then finish up the level. Next up is Bramble Blast, and for the first time we get to hear Sticker Brush Symphony, easily one of my favorite video game songs of all time. It's one of the greatest pieces of video game music ever, at least in my opinion. The level is very tricky though. You have all these barrels and they just go in a couple of directions usually, and you have to kind of figure your way through the maze of barrels, making sure that you blast the right ones, go in the right areas, and be able to make your way through. A slightly mistimed blast easily sends you in the wrong direction or into the wrong barrel, making you reset something, or worse, send you into an enemy or all the thorns surrounding you. There's also some really well-hidden secrets scattered throughout the levels themed like this. Getting into the lower left corner, we're able to find a bonus cannon and get the first bonus room here of the level. This is a tricky bonus room for sure. I usually work my way along the bottom and then up the right side. Eventually you'll have to start turning back inwards and work your way through the kind of center portion of this maze. The Krem coin is located on the right side. You kind of get to this one barrel and finally you're able to get to this automatic shot that will put you over on the platform with the Krem coin. With Sticker Brush being my favorite song in the game, what happens to be your favorite? Is it Sticker Brush or one of the other great songs that's in the soundtrack? And do you think that Sticker Brush is the best song in all of DKC? Work our way up a series of barrels here to this small area. If you do it quickly, you can actually get a 1-up balloon, but it can be difficult sometimes to do that. We finally get to land on some solid ground for a second or so. Continuing on, we're going to use the ponytail move just to kind of do a little shortcut there. When you blast up here, you want to work your way over to the upper left side. Be careful not to go into some of the automatic barrels. You'll see the DK Hero coin above us. We're then going to work our way around the edges on the top and to the right, following the string of bananas, and eventually we'll make it to one of these barrels that can blast us over here. Just after this flitter in the barrel, you want to make sure that you bounce off and go to the gap just to the left. You'll see a little bit of bananas kind of leading you downwards. Go in there and you'll blast up to a Squawks, and then you can use Squawks to fly up here and grab yourself the DK Hero coin. You can then use Squawks to fly your way through this little maze-like area. Be careful of some of the enemies, and it'll eventually lead you to the other bonus room for the stage. This bonus room is pretty simple. You just have to kind of float your way downwards. One thing that's good with Squawks is when you're attached to him, when you hit like the thorns right below you, you can kind of just land on them. They don't hit you directly. It's one of those things I always thought you had to make sure that you stayed hovered, but interestingly enough, that actually will not hurt you. Though, if you run into them from the sides or above, that will hurt Squawks. Next up is the third area boss, Cudgels Contest. Now, Cudgel is the brother of Clubba, that's of course the gatekeeper for the Lost World, and interestingly enough, Clubba was actually going to be a boss encounter in the original version of DKC2. They ended up removing Clubba as a boss fight, but kept some of his moves and just gave them to Cudgels, so this fight actually became more advanced because they cut out the Clubba boss encounter. For this fight, you're mostly dodging. Cudgel jumps up into the air a lot, he comes crashing down wherever you are, it shakes the ground where you only have a couple of seconds usually to kind of get your footing back, and a lot of times won't be able to, where he'll land on you and end up being able to hit you. After a bunch of times of doing this, he'll eventually land and swing his giant club. When he does this, make sure of course you're enough away from him, and he'll also then do a little nutter stomp where he'll give you a TNT barrel that you can then launch at him. As the fight continues, it will get harder to dodge him. He does these long leaps over instead of going completely off screen. Dodge him just as easily, and once again, eventually, he'll swing that club and you'll be able to get a TNT barrel to launch at him in order to do damage. It's a pretty lengthy encounter, and you want to make sure that you have enough space at all times between you and him. Thankfully, this area is relatively big to do that, but once you deliver enough hits, you'll grab a bonus Krem coin, and we're moving on to the next part of the island. Crazy Kremlin is some of my favorite sets of levels. Not necessarily the B-themed stages, as these happen to be some of my least favorite, but still love the song that plays throughout the course of these. Starting off with the first level here, we're going to climb up the series of sticky honey in the walls and make our way up to the corner where we're able to find this secret bonus room. It's a very short one, but you have to kind of get used to shimmying back and forth between the sticky walls. Right above the bonus room, though, there is another hidden bonus room, so jump up here and go inside for another one. In this one, you're going to want to pick up the treasure chest box, and you need to use this to take out all of the zingers throughout it, and once you destroy that last zinger, inside the treasure chest is a Krem coin, and thus complete that bonus game. As soon as you are outside, though, of that bonus room, you can grab a couple extra items, bananas and coins, but for the most part, you want to just drop on down. Now we actually can continue on in the stage. Getting used to the wall jumping with the honey and landing in it is something I'm still not perfect at, even to this day, like the exact timing. It's not quite as easy or graceful to jump between this as I'm used to in something like Ninja Gaiden, for example, which is a game I got used to very much jumping quickly back and forth off of walls. In the upper right corner here, you can find a treasure chest, and if you destroy that chest, inside of it is one of the green DK balloons. You can get some extra lives that way. A little bit ways into the level, you'll see a hook above us, and we're going to use that as well as the honey wall to get up and actually find Squitter. Squitter's a lot of fun here to use in this stage, and you can use these barrels to help you instantly get up a couple areas, or of course use Squitter's web since he is unable to attach himself to the honey walls, and he's unaffected by it too, so it's another way to kind of get through these levels a little bit fun and easier. Squitter is also, of course, very useful for getting rid of all of the zingers that may potentially be in your way throughout the level as well. Over here, we're going to drop on down this opening, and you'll find this small little hidden area. Use some web platforms using Squitter to get up to the DK hero coin for the stage. Right after that, you can get right back into this barrel and blast your way back up through that gap. Use this barrel here, you'll also get past a large amount of area, and then you can use a few more spider web platforms to get to another hidden bonus room. For this one, all you gotta do is climb your way through using Squitter and all of his little web platforms. You don't got a whole lot of time, but you don't really need it, really like 4 or 5 jumps, and you'll be at the top. We don't have too much farther in the level. Use some spiderweb platforms to get up here, watching out for this enemy. And you can use all of Squidder's weaponry. Just keep firing out, really. And a lot of times, as you're running, the webs that you fire out will eventually end up running into an enemy, or at least something else trying to get to you. Over here across this gap, though, we will come to the end of our time with Squidder for this stage. Just have to finish up the level by climbing up the rest of the honey thing and hitting the target. Instead of having minecart levels in DKC2, they instead introduced these roller coaster themed levels, and there's a few of them scattered throughout Crazy Kremlin, and they're some of my favorite levels. The first one being Target Terror, where your goal is to hit the correct barrel to open up the gate in order to go through. Be careful when you're hitting these gates. If you miss one, you'll end up bumping into the gate and lose a Kong. It basically works as if you took damage from an enemy. With this enemy guy, you're just going to wait for him to throw the barrel back at you and then jump over it as he does. Right after him, be careful not to jump here into the X barrel because it'll close the gate. And then right after that, you're also going to be keeping an eye out for a bonus room above you. Make sure that you time the jump correctly so you're able to get inside. For this bonus room, you get to fly around as Squawks and just blast your way through all of the zingers. They're in every little crevice here, so if you make it to like the end area, be careful not to finish the stage before you've taken out all of the zingers and gotten that Krem coin. Back in the level, use the flitters here to bounce up and grab another one of the green barrels. After that is where the checkpoint marker will be located for the stage. You'll have a series of quick jumps and then more tricky jumping as you're dealing with barrels between enemies. There's more of the X barrels to keep an eye out for that will close the gate on you. And after you get the leather end, be ready because you're going to go through this little thing here and jump when you do because you'll be able to grab the DK hero coin there. Right after that, though, you'll see another one of those enemies that throws barrels behind him. However, you want to actually follow him to the track down below and then do a short jump into here where you'll get to another bonus room for the stage. Pretty simple bonus room, just kind of move your way through. You don't have really any time to make a mistake, but that's intentional as there'll be no way to slow down at any point during that bonus game. After grabbing the letter G, you have a couple of jumps that are a bit tricky. There's a zinger right before one and a barrel between two zingers. The final jump in the level is also a pain because you have to pretty much fall a good distance and then time your jump so you're able to hit the green barrel and still land safely on the roller coaster. That last jump I've messed up quite a bit throughout the years. Next up is Bramble Scramble, another one with the great sticker brush symphony playing in the background. The darker themed stage here is very similar to what we saw in the bonus level in the previous stage. When you get up here, you want to team up with Diddy and Dixie and pick up the exclamation point barrel, and then go backwards, jumping all through this maze-like area, and you'll find yourself a secret bonus room. For this one, it's similar to the one we did before destroying the zingers, but instead of just destroying the zingers, we have to destroy them and gather the stars that are located behind them. Just like with that previous one in the last level, be careful not to get to the anti-squawk sign so that you end up losing him before you end up completing the stage. Even though we just lost Squawks in that bonus room, we get him right back as we land back in the main level and can continue flying our way through the stage. Be careful when dropping down here that you don't accidentally run directly into the evil red zingers or any of the enemies firing out those projectile hooks at you. Go underneath the cannon enemy and along the bottom here. Once you see a couple of bananas above you, we're going to start flying slowly upwards. Be very cautious when doing so, and eventually you'll come to the no squawk sign where you'll reach the checkpoint barrel. Right after the checkpoint barrel is a wall you can jump through. You need to do that, and you'll find yourself a barrel to become Squitter. So really nicely hidden spot there. Now with Squitter, we're going to use him quite a bit to not only create platforms, but also to find a really well hidden DK Hero coin. Over here to the left, you need to make some spiderweb platforms and get your way through the wall, and here you can grab that DK Hero coin. When you make it to the top here with Squitter, you will lose him unfortunately, but you do get another animal buddy in just a moment. Watch out for a couple of bugs, and then drop on down and pick up Squawks again. Use Squawks to blast a couple of zingers, and then fly through the red zinger maze, working your way to the lower right corner in order to continue on. Thankfully, after this annoying maze part, they do give you a DK barrel right after that, so if you do lose one of the Kongs, you'll get one back. The rest of the stage is just you dodging a lot of zingers. They come at you like the ones here, they're moving around in a circle pattern. You have just a small set of seconds for you to get up there and get through. The next segment here has a mix of red and yellow zingers, so at least you can take out some of them, but they're coming towards you at the same time, so it can be a bit tricky. Also, with a lot of stuff going on screen, it can slow down sometimes. After this loop, remember you can hang out at the bottom of the screen. Do that to your advantage to help you get through the next little segment easily to finish up the level. The next level in the game is one of my absolute favorites, Rickety Race. Start off by immediately going up to the top though to get to the first of the bonus rooms. It's a very easy bonus room. All you gotta do is make a couple of jumps and you'll run right through the enemies and grab the Krem coin. In the level, your goal is to try to get into first place along with surviving the stage. If you survive, you complete the level, but if you're able to get into first place, that's how you get the DK Hero coin for the level. As soon as the race begins, they'll hold back on the D-pad. This will allow you to get a big, huge boost, and this boost usually gives me enough in order to finish in first place during the course of the race. What you need to do is when you're coming up to one of the other enemies that are on the track, you just need to jump on their head. If you bump into them, you'll get slowed down. Just be careful that when you decide to overtake one of their positions, that you're not near a pit so that when you bounce off of them, you fall directly into that pit. Once you've done the race a few times, you kind of get used to the layout of the track. And even now, though, I can still make a very easy mistake. Just one slightly mistimed jump is enough to end up sending me careening into a pit. The gap usually between 2 and 1 is always a lot of stress. You'll be seeing the G letter of Kong there, and you know you're near the end, so you don't have much time to overtake him. But if you're lucky enough to do so, I get that DK Hero coin, and you'll see at the very end and get to see what place you finished in. So seeing him first, we get that, and then we can finish up the level and move on to the next stage. The next level is another swamp-themed level in Mud Hole Marsh. The Cat of Nine Tails enemies can be a bit annoying for sure. Those are the ones that are spinning and they grab you, they end up throwing you in a weird direction. Sometimes it can be really odd what ends up happening with that throw, so it's best not to get grabbed by them if all possible. When you make it to this spot, use Diddy and Dix's team-up move or bounce off the necky to get the exclamation point barrel so that you're invincible for the next little segment. You can use this to run through a bunch of these enemies and making this segment very, very easy instead of having to deal with the barrage of them. It also should last long enough to take out this Cat of Nine Tails enemy on this platform so you can easily double team and get up to the barrel above. For this one, use the double team moves as a nice effective way to easily clear out all the stars and grab the Krem coin. Continuing on the level, a few more neckies. Grab this treasure chest. You can use it to take out the Cat of Nine Tails enemy, or just make sure you jump over him. His throw there can easily throw you into their zingers. Eventually, you'll come to a cannonball laying on a platform. Pick that up, and you can actually use this to help defend yourself against the cannon that's firing those barrels out at you. Make sure that you keep the cannonball with you, it doesn't accidentally fall into the swamp, and get to the cannon for another bonus room. This one's very simple, just keep the cannons with you. You can use them to take out most of the enemies here, the flitters, as well as the zingers. The only thing left in the level for us to worry about is the DK Hero Coin, and it's actually located on the target at the end of the level, and you have to do a very precise jump using the cannon enemy barrels in order to do it. It's one of my least favorites, for sure. Here you'll see that arrow pointing to the right. Just wait a few moments, and eventually the barrels will come to you and you can start bouncing off of them. Now here is where we have to worry about the cannon. Wait a moment for the fire of the barrels, and what you need to do is just time it so that you'll be able to get the hero coin while bouncing off of the barrel. Sometimes the timing's right there right away, and other times you have to wait for it. But once I have that opportunity, which is usually when I bounce off of the barrel, if it's on the Diddy 1-up balloon, that's usually where I know to kind of do my arc, and that usually gets the timing. Sometimes I still make a mistake because it's only up there for a second or so for you to be able to hit it. But once you have that, we're moving on to the Lost World segment of Crazy Kremlin. The next level we're doing, though, is Clubber's Carnage, and Clubber's Carnage is filled with, well, the Clubber enemy. There's a variety of these type, the guys in the barrels. Green ones will just bump into you, yellow ones will bump into you and cause you to lose bananas. You have explosive ones and TNT ones, and you have the evil, evil gray ones with red eyes that when they bump into you, you actually lose your lives. This is a marathon sprint against these guys, and there's a lot of them throughout here. You have a few of the barrels that have only Diddy or Dixie on them throughout this level, so be careful when firing or going between barrels, you don't end up shooting into the wrong one. And it's based on, of course, whoever is in the lead of your group. Like with the other Lost World levels, there's only one bonus room for you to keep an eye out for, and it's at the end of the level, the very, very end of the level. So for the rest of the stage, you just have to worry about getting through. And it's a challenging level. Not only do we have that whole gauntlet at the beginning with the clubbers, you then have this segment. You have to quickly go between barrels. A lot of them only have a few seconds for you to kind of stay there and prepare, and if you fire early sometimes, it can really put you in a predicament. Interestingly enough, when they made Donkey Kong Land 2, which is the pseudo-sequel Game Boy version of this game, it's pretty much identical as far as level designs and the level placement, though the Lost World was one of the ones they changed up a lot, having it be a world that's all together as one thing, as well as the level order, with this level actually taking place after Animal Antics, whereas Animal Antics is the last one of the Lost World levels in this version. And at some point down the road, I do plan to get to the Donkey Kong Land series and eventually the GBA versions of the Donkey Kong Country games, as they are neat versions, maybe inferior in a lot of ways, but some neat changes and stuff that makes them worth playing if you've never checked them out before. Though I'm not sure quite when yet, because doing both Donkey Kong Country and Donkey Kong Country 2 so far and getting these near-perfect runs has been challenging enough. At the end of the level, use the barrel on the top portion here and fire to the right to find the bonus room barrel for this Lost World stage. This is a fun one. You get the invincibility barrel at the very beginning, and then you have to barrel your way through. Make sure as you're running through that you grab the other invincibility things and take out all the zingers. Remember, it's a destroy all enemies one, and when you reach the end, you'll be rewarded with that DK Hero Coin, and we're already at the end of the level, so we can finish it up and go back to Crazy Kremlin for the last stage there before we get to the boss. Next up is Ramby Rumble, the last level of Crazy Kremlin before we face off with this area's boss. And this is a cool level. I end up making a big mistake during this stage, but thankfully it's a mistake that's easily corrected with a quick death. The beginning part of the level is pretty much your standard bee honey themed stage that we've seen already throughout the course of Crazy Kremlin. You have some barrels and plenty of honey on the walls and floors that you'll have to worry about and you'll end up getting stuck in. Here you can drop down either slowly or just drop down in a big heap like I do, trying to dodge as many of the zingers as possible. Work your way on the left side or right side here and work up slowly. Plenty of zingers once again waiting for you, and they don't give you a lot of time to get through. When you reach the top here though, use the hook that's kind of hidden and you can get onto the walls on the left side. Now you gotta do a bunch of tricky jumps, but eventually you'll reach the top and get to a bonus room. Simple bonus room, just have to climb up quickly, jumping back and forth. You don't have a lot of time, but really you'll have plenty of extra time even if you end up falling off a couple of times. Once we're back in the level, we're going to head to the right and climb up, watching out for this enemy that's going to swing the giant swords at us, and we'll hit the checkpoint marker. Now, right after this, we actually want to go to the top portion, but I messed up and floated over too far, so that automatically transitioned me into this room where you become Rambi. The thing is, though, we need to get the DK Hero coin, which is actually located right there, which you can't get with Rambi. So I'm going to drop down into a pit real quick, lose a life unfortunately, but because that checkpoint was right there, I'm able to easily get right to the spot and get over. So that's one thing that's thankfully very helpful. So if you've hit that checkpoint marker and you accidentally fly over too far like I did, you can still end up getting that second chance at the DK Hero coin. Now that we have it though, we're going to have to climb back over and go through officially, and now become Rambi. This part of the level is always a lot of fun. Rambi just blasting through enemies and nothing really gets in his way. Well, most things don't end up getting into his way. After we reach this spot though, the giant zinger, King Zing Sting, that we actually will be battling in the next level, chases us for this portion of the stage. It's fast-paced and stress-inducing for sure, and it kind of works weird, as you can see when you jump through the red zingers, since Rambi cannot be hurt by them, at least jumping on them like that. It just kind of glitches a little bit, you get multiple hits real fast through them. Right near the end though, be careful not to go up and lose Rambi, instead blast through the wall so we can get to the last of the bonus room games here in Crazy Kremlin. Right after the bonus game though, we lose Rambi, but that's also the end of the level, and we're moving on to the boss encounter. This is a pretty fun boss. You get to become Squawks, and your goal is to hit the stinger on King Zing Sting. Interestingly enough, this battle was actually changed up a bit in the revisioned version of the game. Just like with DKC1 receiving a couple of different variations, DKC2 also had a 1.0 and a 1.1 version released, and while a few things were minorly changed, one thing that was definitely changed was the speed of King Zing Sting. He goes much faster in this version, which is the 1.1 version. This is a fun but sometimes challenging fight. Getting those precise hits on him can be challenging, especially if you're playing this version with that increased speed just a bit. At the end of the fight though, he blows up and becomes a single red zinger, along with a bunch of them flying around him. Take out those, and then you can actually take out him, and he'll fly around and chase you around a bit for the last couple of hits before he finally goes down in defeat, and we're moving on to the next part of the game. This part is called Gloomy Gulch, and it starts off with Ghostly Grave. This is another one of my favorite songs in the game for sure. I always thought that this has some really cool effects and some creepy atmosphere going on for sure. Introduced in these levels are the ghost ropes. These appear and then will disappear after a few moments, so be careful when deciding to make your attempts over them. A little bit way through the level, watch out for all of these annoying guys, and eventually you'll be able to use your ponytail, or you can use the cartwheel if you're really good with it, to get to this barrel down here, which will blast you through and give you the DK Hero coin. Up here, one of these guys will end up becoming a clubber, as you see him pop out, and you can actually use the barrel to help you destroy the other enemies, but then you want to pick up the other barrel, at least one of the barrels, and use it to break open the wall and get to one of the bonus rooms here. This is a fun little one, just gotta pick up the treasure chest and throw it at the red zinger a bunch. Eventually it will break and you'll get that Krem coin. Next part of the level, watch out for this guy throwing spinies down at you, and you'll have a clubber with a TNT barrel around him before we get through a series of quick jumps over a bunch of ghost ropes. Right here with these ghost ropes, you want to quickly climb up them. Thankfully with Dixie, you can just use the one and then ponytail your way over, but there's another bonus room barrel, and we'll use that. You just kind of gotta fly your way using the ghost ropes or float over in order to grab the Krem coin easily. That is the end of the bonus rooms for this level. You have 2 more TNT clubbers waiting for you right here before we climb up. Thankfully, with the ghost ropes with Dixie, if you have her, you can float for a second or two, and that usually gives enough time to go by for the rope to reappear, and you can then use it again. Use the rope at the end to hit the target if you want, and we're moving on to the next stage. The next level is Haunted Hall, another one of the roller coaster style levels, except this time we have a giant ghost chasing us. The gimmick here is you have a timer at the top part of the screen every time you go through one of the gates. You then have 2 barrels, the green and red ones, the green ones adding time and the red ones taking it away. If the timer runs out, you end up losing one of the Kongs as the ghost catches up with you. A little bit ways into the level though, we have some interesting bonus room secrets here. You'll jump up to this track, and then you want to actually jump up again to on top of that, and you'll go over to a really well hidden bonus room. Once you complete this bonus room though, it puts you right back on the track, and you'll go into that other one that we jumped over. This one's a little bit fun. As you make it all the way to the right side, you'll hit one of those boost barrels and then have to jump backwards. It can be tricky to do, but nice little timing short jumps will allow you to get that Krem coin. Then we fly out of that, we can go right in to the next one. And what's cool is if you end up messing up that other bonus room, you can easily jump right back up and get another chance. For this one, you have to collect as many stars as you can see. There's more than enough stars, there's plenty, so if you miss a few, you're still perfectly good. As long as that counter goes down to 0 before you make it to the end of the track, you'll get the Krem coin. Now, after you exit out of that one, you're put on the opposite side of where those bonus rooms were. That's why it's essential for you to go to that other top one first before going to that one below. The next 2 segments of this area in a row are the first one being only positive barrels, but you need to make sure that you hit them all. You don't get any leeway, really. You miss a single one sometimes and you'll end up getting hit. But then the next one is only negative ones. You have a larger timer, and you can hit, I think, at least one of these negative barrels, but you don't want to hit anything more than that. You'll end up getting hit that way. Right after this segment, though, you want to do a very short hop over to this set of tracks, and you'll enter into another bonus room. In this bonus room, you're going really fast and have to make some really quick jumps. Nothing too overly difficult, but that speed definitely can make it a bit stress-inducing. Now, the only thing we have left is the DK Hero coin. That's actually at the very end of the level, so we don't have to worry about any more secrets here. Just have to try to survive the last segment here, which is pretty tricky. There's a bunch of plus and negative barrels. A lot of times they are very difficult to either miss or hit the one that you're trying to. After some pretty tricky jumping with that segment, we do reach the end. Make sure that you don't hit the target, instead go underneath this segment right here, and you'll get the DK Hero coin. Next up is Gusty Glade. Gusty Glade's gimmick, as you can see right away, is wind, either pushing or pulling you very, very quickly. This makes the level a bit tricky, of course, and using Dixie is preferable, as the ponytail ability will allow you to kind of counterbalance some of the wind and maybe survive a time or two that Diddy would just end up getting blasted right into a pit by the wind. After floating over and dealing with a couple of spiny enemies, we're going to get up here, and you want to use the double team move to get into the bonus room. You could get Rattly through this level, but since I'm always kind of hit or miss with a lot of his jumps and Dixie seemingly works better for the stage, I usually just stick with her. Right after that, though, is the checkpoint marker. Just a little ways later, though, after dealing with a cannon enemy, we're going to get a cannonball that we're going to have to keep with us. To get the cannonball, we're going to pick up this treasure chest and break it open, and then keep this with us for a little while to get to the cannon. Making that one jump with the wing can be a bit tricky, so be careful of that, and then go into the bonus room, where here, we'll use the barrel to blast us a bunch of times up into the air and just slowly move back and forth until we collect all the stars. As we continue on, the wind becomes more of a nuisance. Like I said, though, using the ponytails of Dixie really makes this level a lot easier. Watch out for the cannon enemy here, as it can be tricky to get enough speed because of the wind pushing you to get over him. Here, time your jumps accordingly so that you blast up into the air while the wind is going the opposite direction. Right after this, you'll be on top of a segment, and you want to use your ponytails to fly over and make sure that you grab the DK Hero coin. The momentum of Dixie's ponytail and the wind usually is enough to get me over the rest of the level after grabbing that hero coin, and I can finish up the stage. As soon as we begin the next level, use the ponytail to slowly float downwards and hugging the left wall in order to grab the DK Hero coin right off the bat. In this level, we're introduced to Quawks, a purple variant of Squawks, but unfortunately he cannot fire out projectiles. He also pretty much goes in a direct path downwards through areas. Interestingly enough, you can kind of skip some segments if you have something or pick something up at the same time here, and this way I'm able to avoid one of the segments, but you gotta be really careful trying to do that, because you need to know like the pattern of the zings already, so you're able to get around them. Over here, we want to hug the left side here. You'll be able to just barely float over the zinger and get to a secret little passage that contains a bonus room. For this bonus room, we actually get the bee squawks for just a brief period of time and fly upwards to grab that Krem coin. Unfortunately, though, we lose Squawks and have to get on Quawks again, so we're not able to fly upwards, just kind of hover and slowly descend down, watching out for all of the zingers. Interesting enough, Quawks does make a return in DKC 3 as well, but that time he actually can fly upwards, but still cannot fire out projectiles. After losing one Quawks, we immediately get on to another one, slowly descending once again for a short bit of time. Once down here, we're going to float over to the left side and use the honey walls to climb up to another bonus room. For this destroy all enemies one, you're going to get Squawks again and just fly around this small little corridor, blasting out projectiles to destroy enemies. At the end of the area, though, you'll lose Squawks and get a TNT barrel for your effort, and you'll need to use that to destroy the last zinger enemy to get that Krem coin. This segment here is pretty much just back and forth, nothing really to it, just making sure that you don't descend too fast that you accidentally run into any of these guys. After that pretty lengthy segment, drop down here. You can pick up the barrel and roll it at some of these guys if you want, but you'll get immediately right on another quack segment, slowly descending through a bunch of zingers. At the end of this segment, there's another quack that you can grab, and you're supposed to keep descending, but I'm going to just skip that and use the ponytail Dixie to fly through a little easier. Just kind of hugging the right here after making my way through, I'm able to get to the end. The next level is Web Woods. As you can see, there's a heavier fog in this one than some of the other forest ghost-like areas that we've dealt with so far, and it's a level that gets to feature Squitter for a bit, so that's always a fun level, even though this one is a bit wonky as far as some of the areas. At least that's how I've always felt about it. Over here, we're going to go through this little opening, and we'll become Squitter and get to use him for the level. Now with Squitter, we're going to be using him to blast a lot of enemies throughout this. I'm pretty much always firing out projectiles to try to take out anything that potentially could come up in front of me. A lot of times the jumping Kremlin enemies will bump right in to the webs I'm firing. I mentioned it earlier, but using the kind of standing and using the directional pad to guide your webs can also be very, very useful for cutting down not only on time, but being more efficient with setting up your platforms. This level really does put your Squitter abilities to the test. There's a lot of really open areas that you're going to have to use these web platforms in order to get across. Be careful getting through this segment right here with all of the necky enemies. I'm going to use these web platforms to get on the top here. If you go too high up, sometimes it will scroll the screen, so you got to be a little bit careful here. Take out the cannon enemies located on these platforms before you, of course, attempt to get over there. Now, right here with all of these neckies, we're going to have to use the cannon enemy located to the right, but we need to activate him first, so you do have to travel a little bit. You're going to see a banana arrow pointing to the left, which is the indicator to tell you something's up there. Once we do finally make it over to the right, you're going to see the cannon enemy firing out, and after he fires out one really quick projectile, he'll then follow it up. He'll fire out a really, really slow one. What you need to do is just keep this one on screen and follow it over to the left side. Eventually, it'll collide with the wall on the left here and break it open so you can enter it for a bonus room. Here is another one of those sticker brush style of bonus room levels. Using Squitter, just blast the zingers and make a bunch of platforms to get your way through. Interestingly enough, we do have another bonus room to keep an eye out for in the level, and it's done in a very similar way, though a bit easier than that last one to get. Time your web platforms accordingly. I usually like to hang out in the center part of the screen, giving me enough space for the zingers to go above, and I can kind of get through while the camera is still centered enough. Right here, you'll see another arrow pointing to the left. It's another indicator that we're going to blow open that wall, and once again, use the cannon enemy here to blast open the wall. For this bonus game, is another Collect the Stars one. You have a big set of stars that make out the rare logo. Collect all of the stars and grab that Krem coin. We are nearing the end of the level, and at the end of the stage is actually the DK Hero coin for the level. You'll eventually run into the no animal sign, time accordingly using the barrel here in order to grab that DK Hero coin and move on to that next stage. It's another one of those ones that can be tricky to get for sure. Now that we have enough of the Krem coins though, we're going to go to the next Lost World themed level. This one is Fiery Furnace. You can see it has a very similar theme to the levels we saw in Crocodile Cauldron, though it has a bit of a darker color scheme to it. A part of this level is the barrels, the ones that you have to kind of move yourself, that also are timed. So you have free movement of them, but you have a limited amount of time in them before eventually getting fired out. It doesn't take much really kind of get used to this, and you usually have enough time to set up your next blast, but still can be a bit nerve-wracking. The next segment that we're going to be doing is a bit more tricky. You'll use flitters as well as you'll follow these banana trails, and that usually is a good indicator of where you should be when the timer runs out. That way you're set up, and when you get blasted out, you're going to be in contact with the next flitter enemy to get to that next safe barrel. After the checkpoint marker, we continue on with more of these segments. Here, I try to get past the zinger, but just barely get clipped. As you can see, you can get hurt inside of the barrels. There's only the one bonus room that we're going to be worrying about, and it's pretty lengthy into this stage. This is one of the longer levels overall because of just so many of these segments that we're slowly moving using the barrel. Be careful of the cat o' nine tails enemy here. This barrel, as you can see, will blast you to the left, so we gotta make sure that we've made it far enough to get to this barrel so that when it does fire, we're in that line of sight. Here you can either blast straight to the platform if you're far enough over, use that flitter. You'll then be bombarded by a couple of quick cat o' nine tails enemies before you get to that next barrel. Now this is where we finally get to that bonus room. You'll see a small barrel above you, it's a little hidden. Get to that using the double team move, or you can actually get cat o' nine tails to throw you up there if you're lucky. Either way, get up there and that's where you'll find that bonus room. Here we have to control a barrel through this maze, watching out for all of the zingers and other stuff getting in our way. You have a decent amount of time here, and you don't have to worry about a timer on the barrel. It's not going to fire you out. Just don't accidentally fire yourself out too soon. This is a pretty lengthy bonus room, but if you're able to survive all the way to the end of the maze, you'll grab the DK Hero Coin. Right after the bonus room, though, it puts you right at the end, hit the target, and now we have only one more Lost World level to do. But in order to get all the Krem coins, in order to complete that last level, we actually do have to finish the game first, getting all the rest of the regular bonus rooms in order to access it. So we'll actually see the end game credits and stuff before we get to see the last level in the Lost World. The boss for this world is a ghost version of the boss we battled in level number 1. He starts off by sending a bunch of Neckies at you. Eventually you'll see a Neckie that is not a ghost, and by destroying this Neckie you'll get a barrel. Pick it up and launch it at Crow, or just run into him in order to hurt him, and then continue through the stage. You'll have to do a series of climbing with ropes. Eggs are going to be raining down upon you. Thankfully, they do give you a DK barrel so you can get your buddy back. Eventually, you'll make it to the next segment where once again you'll be doing the same thing, watching out for Neckies, eventually hitting a solid Neckie that will end up giving you that barrel. Once you have the barrel, just go to that right side, hit him again, and continue your ascent up to the top. After some more climbing and watching out for a bunch more eggs, we'll make it to this segment here, which is the final segment of this encounter. With the barrel here, you'll have it sometimes appear on that left side, so make sure that you go over there to grab it. Usually I have to wait for all the other Neckies to dissipate first before I'm able to grab it and finally hit him. Once you've hit him that final time, though, he is defeated, and we're moving on to the next segment of the island. We are nearing the end of the game here as we've reached K. Rool's Keep, located at the top of this island, and the first level is Arctic Abyss. Arctic Abyss is a water-themed area here, and we're going to start off by descending into the water and watching out for all the puffed-up enemies that are scattered throughout this segment. There's a couple of well-hidden secrets here as well, as a little bit ways in, we do thankfully get Ungard the Swordfish and get to use him for a bit. When you make it to the segment down below, the water will descend, but as it rises back up, make sure that you climb on the left side here and do a charge into the wall and you'll get a bonus room. Here you're just going to dash back and forth. I find a nice kind of quick back and forth of quick dashing with On Guard is enough to descend and gather enough of the stars in order to get the Krem coin. After that segment, watch out for some more puffed up enemies. They do give you a DK barrel here, so if you have taken damage, and in fact I take damage right after that from the puffed up enemy, I'm able to at least get that secondary hit back. After the checkpoint marker, we once again get another one of the DK barrels. Watch out for all of the starfish enemies coming at us. When we get to this segment here, we're going to do a large charged up blast and send On Guard flying to the right, and along the way we will pick up the DK hero coin for the stage. Keep on progressing through. Most of the time just kind of going back and forth with my charges is enough to kind of help me here. After charging my way through a lot of enemies for a while, I'm going to go down through here and go through a secret hidden passageway through the wall. You'll lose On Guard, but you'll make it to a bonus room. For here, drop down and use the chest to destroy all of the zingers, including the one at the very end of the area. Make sure you destroyed all the other ones first, and you'll grab a Krem coin for your trouble. After the bonus room, though, it puts us right at the end where we would lose On Guard anyway, hit the target, and move on to the next stage. The next level is Windy Well, and I have a love-hate relationship with this level for sure, as I've had so many times when replaying the game, including trying to do runs for this video, where I messed up this level, and I messed it up bad, missing the DK coin, as it's very easy to kind of mistime it, as well as consistently missing out on some of the bonus games. So finally though, I got a run of this level that at least was halfway decent, along with a good run that you're seeing now. As you're floating upwards using that wind to push you up, it's a bit wonky at times. Here we're going to drop down. You have to drop pretty far before you end up getting hit by the wind so you can get past the zinger in order to get to the first of the bonus rooms located in the stage. For this one, float on up and then use the hook to bounce off all the flitters easily to grab the Krem coin. As you can see in the level, most of it is involving you floating upwards and having to dodge in and out of zingers, and a few of the other standard enemy types that we've kind of gotten used to at this point. Coming up is the DK hero coin for the level, and it's a really tricky one to get, mostly because you have to go off the right platform here, but don't jump. Instead, just kind of float off of it and catch the wind, then hold right on the D-pad in order to float over far enough to grab that DK hero coin. If you jump or you're a little bit too late on it, you'll just run into a zinger or just float over the DK coin and not be able to grab it. Be careful floating between the zingers here. As you can see, there's just a brief drop with the wind as you're going, and that timing is precise as far as getting past without accidentally clipping one of those enemies. We have only one more secret to keep an eye out for. You'll see a no squawk sign, but to the right of that, there's a clubber and another enemy on this platform. Get the clubber to give you his barrel and then use it to take out the other guy, so you're able to get over here to get to that last bonus room barrel for the level. Use squawks to fly through the area, collecting all of the stars. Pretty standard stuff that we've done a lot so far in the game. Grab that Krem coin, hit the target at the end, and we're moving on to the next stage. The next level is Castle Crush. Here we have a rising part of the floor that we have to deal with the whole time, and just like the namesake, we can get crushed quite a bit throughout the course of the level. A big common theme throughout this stage is going to be you rising up and then creatures coming out of the left or right sides and landing on the platform that you're on. Right here, we're going to use the DK barrel to destroy the enemy and then get past him to grab the hidden Ramby barrel. Having Ramby is a joy for this level. It can be a bit tricky as far as getting crushed, a bit easier I think with Ramby because his body's a bit longer, but usually not really a problem since all the other enemies you're able to just charge on through that the Kongs may have trouble dealing with. Be careful of all the clamp-on enemies coming out of both left and right side during this little segment. I find doing the little jumps towards them is more efficient than waiting for them maybe to land on the horn. So be careful of those guys, and right after that, you'll have one of these guys throwing the hook out. This will be another common theme where you'll have to jump over the hook, it'll retract, and eventually you'll be able to give the guy his comeuppance, but it may take a little bit of time and a bit of dodging. There are some secrets to keep an eye out for in the level. They are a little bit ways in, but we are coming up to the first one. When we reach the top of this platform, we're going to do a big charge into the wall. You can see the nice banana arrow pointing us in that direction, charging through and getting to a bonus room. Very simple bonus room, just take out all of the zingers bouncing on through and grab that creme coin at the top. Sadly, right after that, though, we will end up losing Ramby here as we reach the no animal buddy sign. When we get to this spot here, grab this barrel and it'll fire you all the way up and over to the left side. If you drop down, that's the location of the letter Ho. I actually didn't mean to fall back down there, but either way, just wait a second or two for the floor to start rising back up. It's not like you could really go too far before you ended up needing that floor anyway. Eventually, after dealing with a lot of spiny enemies, we then get the checkpoint marker for the stage. Right after that, there's a hidden wall on the left side where you'll get a Squawks barrel. Now, using Squawks through this level, it's a lot more enjoyable as he doesn't have to wait for the floor to keep up with him in order to progress through. At this point, we're going to be a little bit aggressive going through, but don't go to the no animal buddy sign. Instead, go through the little opening on the right side, dropping down, and if you're quick enough, you'll be able to get that DK hero coin. For completing the area with Squawks, you'll be rewarded with a TNT barrel that you need in order to blow open the left wall and enter the next of the bonus rooms, thankfully the last of the bonus rooms in this stage. Well, we've gotten all the secrets now in this level. We aren't quite out of the water as far as the stage itself. A little bit more troublesome areas, lots more enemies coming at us, and unfortunately we don't have any animal buddies to help us, but still, thankfully it's not too terrible of an area. After a barrage of neckies swooping down at us, we continue on. We have some zingers. With these guys, they keep going in a circle, and when they crash eventually into the floor, they do end up going away. Kind of funny how the floor ends up defeating them that way. You can get a DK barrel to help you out and actually use that to defeat the Crusher enemy here, but he actually will eventually just run into one of those little nooks and get taken out automatically for you. Here's a nice little fun game that we get to play jumping between both of these guys. Thankfully, they have a ceiling So not really an enjoyable life necessarily, stuck in that little corridor, and your only purpose is to try to take out the Kongs until the ceiling crushes you. What a life. As we move on, we have more sets of the zingers doing the rotations. Watch out for those guys, kind of move back and forth, left and right. They get easily between those zingers. Thankfully, though, we are at the end of the level here. Just make sure we don't get crushed by the last little column, and we can hit that target at the top. Next up is Clapper's Cavern. As we start the level, we're going to throw up using our double team move to get to these hooks, and then watch out for the spiny enemies, getting over to that right side to find a hidden bonus room. For this bonus room, just jump along the very small platforms, working your way up in order to get to the Krem coin. After coming out of the bonus room, though, you're going to be placed in this small segment. Jump up using the double team move again, you can hit this hook, and you'll be able to get the DK Hero coin for the level. Drop on down, and now we're going to really start our way through the stage. The gimmick here is with Clapper, we will hit him, and he will cause the water to freeze. We can then run along the top of it in order to get crossed areas. It's kind of a fun little gauntlet of running, sliding, and making sure that you do it so quickly enough that the evil Snapjaw enemy doesn't end up hitting you. Wonderful, wonderful Snapjaw making a return from that level earlier on. Thankfully, though, a little bit ways in, we do get on guard for a bit, and we can use on guard to blast through some enemies, and you need to use on guard in this upper left corner area in order to open up the wall and find another hidden bonus room. This is a fun little one, as you'll use on guard to kind of get through. The water's descending quickly. You can charge through if you want. Either way, get to the end and grab that Krem coin. We do lose on guard right there after coming out of that bonus room. Continue on a couple of jumps and you'll hit that checkpoint marker. From there, make sure you don't go too far over the flitter and you do hit that clapper so that you're able to go through this segment. Either use the ponytail ability to float over some of the harder things or just do a nice running slide, especially with Diddy because he does have that better speed if you want to use that. Here we have another segment of that, do a running slide underneath of all of these zingers, hit another clapper and continue running. Thankfully picking up that barrel, I can crash through the one guy at least. But it is the end of the level, a much shorter overall experience than the stage we dealt with before. The castle-like levels continue with Chain Link Chamber coming up next for us. This level, as you guessed it, has a lot of chain links for us to climb up, shimmy between, and dodge plenty of enemies and other hazards along the way. This is another stage that I consistently mess up as far as remembering where all the secrets are, but thankfully I'm able to get them here. When you're climbing up here, take out the third of these enemies, and you'll notice a clubber enemy in there. Watch out for him, let him go out, and then grab the cannonball. Use that on the right side here, and you can go through the cannon to get to the first bonus room of the stage. Relatively simple bonus room, just kind of dodge in between the zingers as you're jumping. You can also use, of course, the ponytail ability to float and help you a little bit throughout this bonus level. Back in the level itself, you have the series of hooks with zingers moving back and forth along the chain. Time it so that you can make it to the next chain safely, and then up to the next hook before that zinger comes back and ends up running into you. When climbing up this rope, you'll see a single banana. That's a signal to go to the left side. You can go through the wall and find an invincibility barrel. It really isn't going to be something that we have to absolutely grab to get through a spot, but it can really help you get through the next couple of areas, barreling through all enemies that potentially get in your way. Thankfully, I still have a bit of that invincibility left as I go through this last bit of area with some neckies, but once it runs out, you'll have to start to be cautious again. Dodge all these zingers. It can really slow down a bit as you're shimmying back and forth. Now, there's two cannon enemies at the top here firing down at you. What you want to do is go through the wall on the right where the single banana once again is, and you can go through the wall, and that's where the DK Hero coin is. Right after that, though, you want to go through the wall here, and you'll take out two cannon enemies to go through another bonus room. Just move back and forth using those barrels along the chain. There is a time limit, of course, for the barrels before they fire you out, and a relatively strict time limit for this bonus room, unlike most that we've dealt with in the game. But either way, even if you make a mistake or two, you should be able to get to the top just in time to grab that Krem coin. Next segment here, wait for the zingers to pass you down, and then you're going to climb up very quickly doing a series of jumps. Right after that, the zingers next will go up, in which case you want to very quickly go downwards, dropping very fast. Thankfully, though, there's only one more segment of this, as once again we'll have to go really quickly climbing up. I find mashing the button a bit easier than trying to just time those jumps, as when you mash it, you'll more than likely be able to kind of trigger those frame-perfect jumps to get up quicker. Be cautious of the enemy trying to take away a couple of your extra lives at the end there, and then hit that target to finish up the stage. The last of the K. Rool Keep-themed levels is Toxic Tower. For this level, we have Rattly that we get to use and have to avoid the evil poisonous water that you can see slowly creeping up from down below. Kind of a cool little effect that goes on throughout this level. You also can see it filling up even in the background as you're jumping through the windows and all are overtaken by the green effect of that toxic water. A lot of this level is you bouncing off of enemies to get across platforms, timing nicely done super jumps with Rattly to get up to higher areas. Right here, you want to drop down where this enemy is and hug the right wall so that you can grab the DK Hero coin for Toxic Tower. Keep working your way up. You're going to be using those super jumps. Time your jump here on the zingers so that you can make it over to the upper right side. Thankfully, we don't gotta be Rattly for the entire level. After we make a series of jumps off these zingers here, we get to become Squawks for a little while. With Squawks, we're gonna get past the checkpoint barrel. Make sure you hit it, unlike me there. And as you're flying through, you'll deal with a bunch of zingers. You can use Squawks to kind of help you out, taking them out using his projectile as you go through some pretty tight little areas using him. Be careful of the rotating set of zingers here as you keep forcing your way upwards, watching out for the evil toxic slime that's slowly still creeping up from below. Thankfully, using Squawks, it's very easy to get through most of this because of him being able to take out these enemies. They didn't use the red zingers, thankfully. At the end of his segment, though, you get to become Squitter for a little while. Use Squitter's platforms, of course, to keep on ascending. And right here in the right side, there's a torch and a zinger blocking a secret opening that will take you to another bonus room. Here, use what we've been doing before with Squitter and slowly get through the sticker brush to get to that Krem coin. After that bonus game, though, that is the end of the level. Hit the target and move on to the next stage. Interestingly enough, though, there is no boss encounter for this part of the island. Instead, you get a level that's just a cutscene, but you're still rewarded with a bonus Krem coin. The final level before K. Rool is Screech's Sprint. As the title suggests, you have to deal with a creature named Screech, and basically you're going to be racing him as Squawks. Before we get to that part of the level, though, you do have a kind of sticker brush stage with lots of enemies and some jumping that you're going to have to do. There's a nice little color scheme done here as well to give this level a little bit of a unique look. Be careful of the cat o' nine tails enemies. These are extremely annoying here. They can throw you up right in to the spiny thorns that are surrounding the level. Right here, use a double team move to throw Diddy and Dixie up in order to get a cannonball, and then the cannon just above that. Here in this level, you're going to use Dixie's ponytail ability or use Diddy's cartwheels a lot of times to slowly either float or jump your way through this maze area. That is the only bonus room that's located in this level. You see now that we have 14 Krem coins. The 15th Krem coin that we need to unlock that final Lost World level, we get rewarded to us by defeating K. Rool. Now begins the actual Screech Sprint. Screech moves really fast, and you also need to move fast in order to make sure that you're able to stay ahead of him during the course of this race. Squatch's flight is quite useful. He can move really quickly once you get that momentum going, but at the same time, that momentum can also be difficult to stop. Over here, you want to go over to the right side, not downwards where the arrows are pointing. My brain was seeing the arrows and I immediately went that way, but instead you actually want to go up and around, and that's how you get the DK Hero coin for the level. I made that little mistake, and because of that, Screech is able to get ahead, but I should be able to have enough time through this maze area in order to still be able to outrun him and win this race. I remember this is one of those levels I definitely failed at quite a bit before I was finally able to get it done. For the most part, though, you do want to follow those arrows, and when you do reach the end of the level and become in first place, you're able to finish up the stage and move on to the K. Rool battle. It's time for K. Rool's duel. The battle begins with Donkey Kong kind of getting hit and shot at by K. Rool a whole bunch. Kind of nasty right there to start this fight. But then he is retreated up to the ceiling and the real battle begins. Your goal in this battle is the cannonballs. You need to pick them up and launch them into the blunderbuss that K. Rool is carrying. The thing about this is, though, you can only do it when he's trying to pull you in using that gun, and that will allow you to get the cannonball into the barrel of that gun and end up causing it to misfire and thus damaging him. Just like with the first K. Rool fight, it's a set of 3 different attacks basically you're going to have to deal with before the pattern overall ends up changing up. For example, here we have the cannonballs that are spiky. After dodging them back and forth a couple of times, one of the cannonballs will turn into a regular one, and we can use that to throw at him. Once we've dealt a few hits to him, though, he drops down, and the fight continues for Phase 2. You're rewarded with a DK barrel in case you've lost one of your Kongs, and for the second part of this battle, you're dealing with a whole bunch of projectiles coming at you from the gun. After dodging a bunch of them, eventually a barrel will come by that contains a cannonball. Pick it up and launch it at him once he's trying to pull you in order to once again damage him. Next, he's going to fire out a series of bouncing cannonballs that are spiked. Watch out for all these that are going underneath a few of them or jumping over the lower ones, eventually getting that cannonball and being able to hit him with it. The next part of this fight has rotating spiked balls that come out. Starting off with a circle pattern for them with a single one, doing a big loop, increasing in size with each one. Then he continues that by then firing out 2. They do the same pattern that the other ones were doing, but it's 2 at a time, making it so you don't have quite as much room to work with. Hit the cannonball barrel and throw it at him once again in order to do another hit of damage. During the final part of this boss encounter, he's going to be using different colored gases to try to stop you. Blue ones will end up freezing you. The second part of the battle contains red ones that will end up exaggerating your movement, basically making you go double speed or jump double high, so it's really hard to control. And the final part of it is the purple gas that ends up reversing your left and right buttons, which is really tricky to recover from, especially during an intense boss encounter. After the gas, he will also use spiked balls as well, so they're still in play quite a bit during the course of this. He also changes up the speed at which he's moving back and forth across the screen, trying to trick you and fool you as far as your timing goes. The ponytail move is really good to get over that poison gas as it bounces across the screen, and after dodging that, he'll then go through a series where he keeps disappearing and reappearing near you, trying to pull you towards him. Just be careful when you're doing this segment here that you don't stand still for too long or accidentally hit the wrong direction button and end up going towards him. Eventually a cannonball will show up and we're able to launch it into him. That's it, the final hit has been delivered and we can sit back and enjoy the ending to Donkey Kong Country 2. Unfortunately, we don't have all of the DK Hero coins yet in order to overtake that spot, but that's just because we haven't been able to do the last 2 levels. Completing Animal Antics and getting the bonus from there will get us 1 DK coin, and you get another DK Hero coin for defeating the true final boss of the game. The ending to the game is different when you complete that final boss encounter and doesn't include the enemy and character roll call that we get to see here. So we're going to sit back and enjoy this and then jump back in for the final level of the Lost World and the true final boss. After the credits finish up, we're going to go back to the main menu. You'll notice that I only have 93% complete, but that will change dramatically with the next couple things that we're going to be doing here. After we jump back into the game, we're going to head down to K. Rool's Keep. From the very starting point, we're going to go right over to the left side and go into Clubber's Kiosk to go into the level Animal Antics, since we have now 15 Krem coins so that we can enter in here. This is a really fun level that's basically a gauntlet getting to use all of the animal buddies. It's definitely challenging and one of the hardest levels in the game, but just the fact you get to use all the animal buddies and get to use all their abilities pretty much here is pretty fun, at least to finish up this great game. At the end of the Ramby segment, we're going to be taken to an ice segment here. Immediately, you're going to be fired upon by a cannon enemy, so be careful of that before getting into the On-Guard barrel. Getting to use On-Guard here is pretty fun. Using a lot of quick dashes in diagonal directions is pretty useful. With so much chaos going on, I like to kind of get through that gauntlet, then get to a nice little safe spot, wait till everything goes off screen, and then continue my way through. After the On-Guard segment, we get to be Squitter for a bit. During the Squitter segment is actually the location of the bonus room barrel, located actually at the end of his segment. Like always, I use a lot of webs from Squitter. I try to rush through a little bit. Doing a nice jump here, there's a safe spot that I always found, so it's cool that you can do that running jump off that platform after running underneath all those enemies and still land safely between stuff. You have to do a bunch of like arcing or jumping web platforms here so you can get up to the top, but do not go into that barrel. Make a web platform and go over the top, and you'll find the bonus room on the right side. It's the final bonus room of the game here, and it's a pretty cool one. We get to be Squitter for a little bit, as well as we also get to be Squawks for a bit. Use web platforms up the center column here, and then go into the Squawks barrel. Fly up once again, watching out for the zingers, taking them all out. It is a destroy all enemies one. When you reach the top, grab the Squitter barrel again, and the DK Hero coin. Once we're back in the level, we're going to actually use this barrel here now. It's going to blast us up into a sticker brush Brambles style of themed area. Be very careful here. We have a bunch of neckies just a little bit off of the starting point. So as soon as you make that first web jump, there's a good chance you may accidentally run into those guys. Make all the web platforms up this part here, and then go into the Squawks barrel. Now, Squawks has to deal with the wind here, which doesn't really affect him too badly. You can usually take your time a little bit going against the wind. Just be careful of a few enemies, especially like right here. The good thing is, over those flitters, you just run right through them, and there's a DK barrel. So even if you take damage from those flitters, you're going to get the barrel right back. Here, you're just going to time and take out the zinger that you're able to, and then just use that wind to your advantage to go through. After a little bit of that, you do become Rattly for the last part of the level. We'll immediately start off by doing a big mega jump with Rattly, getting out of that opening pit. Then you're going to be bouncing along a bunch of red zingers. Thankfully, there's a banana trail leading you to the floor where it's safe to land, even though you can kind of see it. It's not a very long area with Rattly, but we hit the target, and now we have completed all of the Lost World levels and all the stages in Donkey Kong Country 2. It's time to go to the Crocodile Core and battle Captain K. Rool one last time. Now, this fight is a one-hit battle. You only have to hit him one time, but you have to survive a barrage of attacks. It's basically all the stuff that he did to you during the previous fight. He's throwing it all out at you again, using the poison gases. Once again, with the purple ones reversing your controls, being the absolute worst thing to have to deal with, and can be pretty much detrimental to surviving it. The good thing, like I said, though, is you only need to survive long enough to get a single cannon into that gun. During the course of the fight, he'll also change up the patterns a bit. This is always annoying when he fires out a slow one and then immediately fast ones. I usually end up getting clipped during this part, if I'm going to get clipped at all. It's pretty tight timing you have to do, especially also if you're just using Diddy. The good thing is, with Diddy, that extra speed will really help you get over those sets of 3 when it comes to his projectiles. You also then have the sets of 3 where you have to get in between, and then there's one right after that. But finally, he drops the cannon, we can launch it in, we get the last DK Hero Coin, and can sit back and enjoy the true ending to Donkey Kong Country 2. So there you have it, guys. Donkey Kong Country 2, the true ending there. You get to see Captain K. Rool going off, even though the island's destroyed and sunk for good. Cranky gives you a little bit of credit there. You have the 40 DK Hero Coins, so you've overtaken everything. Now, when I go back to the menu here, you'll notice I only have 100%. And that's because I made a really stupid error. I didn't actually go into Wrinkly's College or Funky's Flights. So if you don't enter these spots in on the map, it doesn't give you that 1 percentage point each that they give you. You don't have to actually interact with them at all, but here at least with that I can go to Funky, then Wrinkly, and save here, and there we go, 102% Donkey Kong Country 2. This was a challenging play it through for sure. I don't really talk about difficulty a lot of times when I do these videos, but this was one that was up there just because of trying to memorize everything and trying not to lose many lives, and unfortunately had to lose one intentionally, but I really do hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did or enjoy any of the Play It Through series, please be sure to share it. Share it on social media, share it with your friends, family, wherever possible. Every little bit of word of mouth does end up helping, especially with this series. I've been doing it for over 10 years now. Some of you guys have been with me for the entire run, but unfortunately it's still hard to get this series seen. So sharing it is a free and easy way to really help out the channel. But that's going to wrap up this Play It Through. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.